Hi, Roger Hill of Wuthering Heights Consulting. We're looking at the Arctic front transiting through the rest of this morning, and it looks like colder temperatures will be following suit, along with a lot of sunshine. Latest visual satellite pictures do show quite a bit of clearing skies that are now setting up over toward Petawawa, Maniwaki, down over toward Ottawa, and just now getting into the Montreal area. Light snow is transiting south. You can see some lake effect plumes barely being able to be picked up by local Burlington radar. Better plumes, of course, coming just about due east of Lake Ontario, also Lake Erie. A lot of this snow is going to be working in lighter fashion across parts of southern Vermont, but this is going to be getting out of here as we start to see drier air and train into the region from the north and west. This is an area of higher pressure that's beginning to build in. It's going to be pushing southeast and clearing us out for later on this afternoon with a ton of sunshine. Hope everybody has their sunglasses. Also of note, you can see where it's been snowing and where the snow is beginning to end, and this is in that clearing line here. So good weather ahead, improving conditions, and this will set up actually for most of Saturday. Saturday should not be a problem except for parts of southern Vermont. That'll happen later in the day as we have an incoming storm system. Okay, this is the European model 0Z run from last night on this Friday morning. I want to give you a little tour here of what these lines mean. Of course, you can see here's the coast of British Columbia, of course, the United States, Baja California, Mexico, Gulf Coast, Florida, and then the eastern seaboard. You can see Maine, for example, and then the St. Lawrence Seaway, and up in Newfoundland country. Canada, very, very cold air right now. Some of the coldest air we've seen in the eastern Canada is residing not that far north of the St. Lawrence River Valley. These purple lines are thickness lines. It shows the lowest thickness lines, implying the coldest Arctic air masses, not that far as the crow flies north of northern New England, but it is residing in Quebec, and it looks like primarily it's going to be working its way out of here in general, and you'll see some of the movement. It'll be slipping more east than southeast, and that's good news as this is some mighty, mighty chilly air for so early in the season. Also, real quickly here, I want to show you this darker blue line. This is representing the 32-degree isotherm, or about approximately where the freezing mark is. You can see that it penetrates into the Central Valley of California and into the deep parts of the southeast United States along the coast and, of course, off the coast into the Atlantic Ocean. And as we run these numbers here for you, I'll give you these are every 6 hours. You can see where that line is bobbing up and down, for example, out west. It looks like the coldest weather is moving out of California for a short period of time. But I want to concentrate a little bit on the east. This is a storm system right here that's in the making. It's what we call a Miller B nor'easter. In other words, this is an area of higher pressure that's going to bump up against it. So this storm system with its precipitation, you can see that there's 2,500 to a half inch of precipitation right there. So every 6 hours, this is going to be moving off to the north and east. I'm going to run it here again. So generally, basically, it's coming out of parts of the southeast United States. The area of low pressure then begins to develop along the coast. Precipitation fields do pick up. And notice it's quite a ways off to the south and east of our region. However, there's a pretty good inverted trough that extends north. And so we're looking at a nice fluffy snowfall, cold enough to snow, even down almost to New York City, most of southern New England. Meanwhile, back out in the west, things are warming up just a little bit, still some leftover colder air. And as this storm system begins to shift off to the south and east, or rather to the northeast, and basically pulls away, it'll leave some cold air in place, along with a little bit of snow shower and flurry activity. As I run these numbers, you'll be able to see that here in a second. So we'll just continue to run this by itself here. You see an area of higher pressure moving out, and then that Arctic front that's had moved on through. We'll back it up here a little bit. There's the Arctic front moving on through this morning, and then an area of higher pressure trying to build with this very, very deep, cold Arctic air mass in place. Okay, there's our storm system. The nor'easter then develops, takes place off of New Jersey as a Miller B. Works in sort of the Gulf of Maine, but really south of Nova Scotia, putting the jackpot snows probably more into southern and central Vermont, into parts of Maine than, say, northern sections. We have a upper level trough that'll extend and bring us more lake effect snows from time to time, with one more consolidated system along about Tuesday. Notice what goes on in the west, though. I'm going to back that up real quick. You can see the west begins to warm up a little bit with a little bit more of a Pacific flow starting to happen. But I hate to say it, for you folks out west, you're looking at a reloading cold Arctic air scenario setting up, working its way south and east. You can see that Arctic air dropping in right now. And let me stop this right here. What that does is all this cold air takes a pretty good plunge with the coldest stuff, of course, up in the Canadian prairies, places like eastern Montana, North Dakota, the northern plains, the upper Midwest, Minnesota, Wisconsin. Those areas are going to take the brunt of it with the next shot of Arctic air. But notice the penetration gets into Nevada and whatnot. Doesn't look nearly as bad as the last go around, but temperatures definitely are going to be getting colder as a lot of this cold air begins to work its way south. Okay, looking at the colder air that's been dropping in, you'll see that it warms up out west, and then all of a sudden here comes that next Arctic air mass dropping along the western seaboard, the west coast rather. And then in the east, you might notice that we warm up. It's the old flipperoo here, where the fat kid on the teeter-totter, anytime he drops out, the teeter-totter being basically this line here. Um, like that. When this drops to the south, well, all of a sudden you've got this guy going up, and so consequently we warm up. This is going to be a rainstorm. It looks like the end of the week, next week on Friday, and we are in a lot of warm air. It looks like, unfortunately, rain is going to cause probably multi-precipitation types that will be working in late in the week on Friday, with a storm system making a track that's going to be working its way into looks like right now really Quebec and Ontario, Canada. Now, the controlling influence so far this December has really been this area of higher pressure that's located in the Gulf of Alaska, of all places. Typically, you have an area of low pressure that swings in multiple storms into the British Columbia and Western Canada, the Pacific Northwest, sometimes dragging cold fronts all the way down into Southern California and Baja California during the winter. This year, a very odd weather pattern. What it does is it forces the jet stream way up to the north and then drops it in across the interior areas into parts of interior west, and then pieces of that break off and then work through to the north and east. But when you have so much cold air dropping in on the western part of the Canadian prairies back into western Canada, you end up getting the opposite effect. That is, warmer air working its way from south to north. And that's what's going to be going on late in the week, next week, and unfortunately producing some rain, probably mixing with snow on the front end, and then a bunch of freezing rain, sleet, and a whole bunch of junk, and then rain, and then back to snow as a cold front moves on through. Now you'll notice this cold front is pretty spectacular here. As you watch it here, you'll see it set up. There's the cold air dropping in the west, the warm air working in the east, and then here's your cold front. It's fairly powerful, a lot of concentrated precipitation, and looks like a nightmare. Could be some wet snow loading for utilities in some parts of northern New England. Thanks for watching Wuthering Heights.